I'm here to get to know this amazingly talented young lady today. She is a singer, songwriter, all-around musician, featured on Apple Music Radio, featured by Love Renaissance Studios, the label that holds Summer Walker and Black. I think it's safe to say that I'm sitting here with a rising superstar. Everyone meet Miss Ezenwanyi. Hey! I'm so excited. Formerly known as Young Moonling.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
We had a name change.
We did.
I know that that's like a pivotal time for any artist, a pivotal change, you know. So what prompted that?
That's a great question. I want to start with where Young Moonling came from and why I was ever her. And I don't think I'll ever stop being Young Moonling. I think that's just a part of me. It's a part of my vibe, just my gist. When I first came onto the scene, I was Ezzy originally. Okay. So I was Kelechi's little sister. Okay. We had a little group going with Kelechi, Faye, and me called The Standard. And basically that started when I was in high school, around 16 years old. I was recording with them every day. As soon as I got home, I was in the studio, and that's really how I learned how to write music, how to record music, what the energy was like being an artist. I never really considered myself an artist at that point, but I knew it was something I loved to do. After I went to college and started experiencing the scene on my own, it was called Level Up. I think it ended up being called Takeoff ATL, but that was like the kind of group where I made my home. And I was performing every single week. And before I ever performed, like, I was sneaking in at 19, 18, just catching a vibe and seeing what the scene was about. But when I was finally old enough and I felt like I was talented enough, I became like more of like a rap persona, more of like the lyricist. I sang a little bit, it was a little melodic, but predominantly it was about the bars. Right. Because I was at the showcases and I felt like I was just as good lyrically. So I was like, let me come up with this presence, because Ezzy don't quite hit hard enough. I want it to hit like the bars hit. I used to introduce myself as, hey, I'm young moonling, like an earthling, but a moonling. Right. So kind of like a story I created in my head, kind of being an outcast, in school or in my family or as a Nigerian. Like a lot of the Nigerians Nigerian Americans you might meet are more type A or like want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Whereas me, I've always felt different and like artistic. So Young Moonling just came from that narrative that I was in my own little universe, the moon, by myself, and I was a young moonling rather than an earthling.
So now, where are we? What does this change mean for you as an artist?
Right, and so once you mentioned Love Renaissance, so that kind of sparked a lot of things into gear for me. Once I was on there live as Young Moonling.
We're gonna talk about that.
Right.
We're gonna hear the story.
We're gonna talk about that. But I was on that live as Young Moonling, and then I performed this song called End of the World, which is a huge record. It's like a ballad. It's like a classic Motown sounding record.
So beautiful. We're gonna talk about that too.
Right, and it didn't really sound like anything I had done before. It sounded like pre-scene Ezzy, me. It sounded like me, like the girl with the guitar, the girl.
Not the persona.
Right, not the persona. It sounded like the girl who had been singing for the love her whole life. And that's when I decided that Young Moonling has been outgrown. And then as the album kept manifesting and it was being created, all the songs sounded more melodic and more like me. And that's when I decided Ezenwanyi is a more appropriate name for me.
What would you consider your sound to be? Because R&B is like ever changing. There's so many like different levels and subgenres. And sounds. It's like such a huge variety. What would you describe your sound as?
I always have trouble with that question because I think eclectic would be the safest.
That's what I thought.
Right, because it is kind of everywhere, and that's what I do like about the album I'm working on, is it kind of takes you through all my sounds. There is some rap on there, and there is some more playful records, like dancey, poppier records. But I would never consider myself a pop artist because predominantly you're gonna get the soul, you're gonna get the R&B, you're gonna get the you know, blackness, you know. Not that pop can't be black, but, you know, you're gonna get more of that soulful, bluesy sounding from me because I'm emotional.
It's you. Yeah.
Right, I'm emotional, and a lot of the times it's easier to translate with the more melodic and, you know, R&B sound.
Let's talk about Love Renaissance.
Right.
That was a big moment for you. Tell us, you know, the story, and I want kind of like an update on what's going on with that.
That's a great question. Okay, so Love Renaissance, Justice Wears School Pants was hosting these lives top of quarantine when everything was going down. Nobody really knew what was gonna happen. We were all in lockdown at that point. And he hosts these lives where he has talent from all over the world perform, and it was the first day he did it. My best friend DM'd me. My manager, who's also my big brother Yukon, DM'd me like, you should get on this. And I was like, bet. I got it in there, and as soon as the Atlanta people saw me, everyone was so supportive. It was like, Young Moon, pick Young Moon. And so I was honestly overwhelmed because I didn't ask nobody to come in there and pipe up for me. They just did. So I was kind of surprised by that, but I was happy. And I knew I was going to get on that first day. I didn't know when, but I knew I was. And then Justice, I remember him being like, we're going to do one more person. And I looked at my brother, so I was like, bro, it's finna be me, bro. And as soon as I said that, the thing started loading. I was like, it's me. And there I was with my guitar, and I did, you know, End of the World. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. You know, it was a lot of industry people in there that ended up talking with me later. I got a lot of opportunities from that live. Opportunities for placements, a lot of producers contacting me, local artists wanting to collab, which I really love. Basically what Justice told me was once all this corona stuff ends, that we would get together.
Right, and here we are a year later.
And here we are, about a year later, and we were in contact for a little bit. I don't want to like out him, but it never really got to a place yet. Hopefully,
I mean, it's, you know,
it will.
It's a lot going on.
It is a lot going on. It never got to a place, and
technically, he said when this COVID shit goes away,
right?
The COVID shit has not gone away yet. Right.
So
it's a weird time.
I just kind of, one thing I have learned, because I feel like that was like my initiation into the industry. As far as like people still mention that to this day, even though it's kind of in the back burner of my brain. But one thing I've learned is a lesson, and I think that any artist can take away from this if you're trying to make this your career, is do not hang on what these executives or people tell you, because honestly, it's about your craft, it's about your talent, and it's about your progression, it's about the process. So you need to validate yourself before you look outward for any of that, you know what I mean? And going back to what I said about becoming Young Moonling, that was sort of me creating this persona to be validated, you know, never really truly internally believing that Ezenwanyi was fine, right? And so, you know, after kind of getting my hopes up with that, and then some other stuff happened after that, getting my hopes up, I just realized, like, bro, the music is fire, and it doesn't matter, you know, if nobody sees it yet. It's okay, because they will.
Right.
And whatever happens is gonna happen.
That was exciting for me to watch, you know, somebody who's been seeing you come up and come up. It's like, damn, people are finally noticing what we've all seen, you know, so that's cool. We are here in your space.
We are.
I appreciate you for, you know, letting us in, because I feel like this is, you know, somewhat of a sacred space for you. You have cultivated it to, you know, make it your own.
For sure.
How important is your space when you're creating, when you're writing, recording?
That's
the vibe.
I mean, that's like tip top for me. I talked about my music being emotional, but I am also that person, and I am really sensitive, and like the slightest thing can throw me off in the studio. I'm working on it to be more of a fortress and like not let really things like penetrate my vibe like that. But
well, I mean, I think you know,
right,
you can have people have their rules and restrictions when they're recording, like I need this, like that, and, you know,
I am very much a product of my environment. I've always been into like interior design and decorating my space, like since high school and stuff. After being on the scene forever and ever, not really having my financial security down pat, and like kind of just being a rebel without a cause for a long time, I had to go through a severe period of like healing, and where that was my only intention. And that's where a lot of, you know, these songs came from, because I had a year I moved away from Atlanta to Tifton, Georgia, which is, I didn't have nothing in common with nobody down there. And I just got time to just be with myself and figure out what it is that I need, what makes me feel whole, what makes me my mental okay and like able to navigate. Because one thing about the external environment is going to always be changing, but you have to kind of keep your insides at equilibrium, yeah. You know what I'm saying, so that you are okay. And so yeah, my space helps me a lot with that. This is where I write my songs. This is where I am when I'm not writing this is where I am when I'm crying, because I'm gonna write a song because somebody broke my heart, you know what I mean? So yeah, my space is super like critical to my creative process.
Talking about these songs that you're creating, you're working on an album. I remember seeing some snippets of video shoots and photo shoots and a track list. Where are we with the album?
We are close. I stopped doing the date thing because
that was coming.
Right, I stopped doing the date thing because I don't want to let people down, and I know a lot of people are waiting on it. Whenever I see anybody in public, like, that's the first thing they ask me, which makes me very happy. But it's also a lot of pressure as a new artist, and I'm almost in the artist development phase right now. I haven't completely made concrete my image or who exactly I'm presenting as, besides just myself. I'm glad I decided that. There's so many layers and things that I didn't know went into the process of creating an album. And sometimes, like, there's a specific record, one of my favorite records called Boo. That started off completely different sounding. It was like just acoustic and me, because I wrote it on guitar, but then when we recorded it, it sounded okay, but I was like, bro, scrap this shit, like throw it in the garbage. After spending like a week on the record, we literally threw it away and had to get a new producer to come in, and I told him my vibe. I was like, okay, think Cater to You, right, Destiny's Child, think Jagged Edge, think this and this and that. And then he gave me this piece which was just like crazy, and I was like, that's the one. And then we re-recorded the record and it sounded way more how I wanted it to sound. So that has been happening a lot, where I think it's gonna go one way and then we sit on it and then I'm like, bro, I'm not feeling it no more.
I mean, times are, you know, definitely changing. Like, people are just putting out content, just throwing shit out, and, you know,
right.
But there was a time where our favorite artists would put out an album and it would be at least a year before we got another album.
Right.
So, you know, I appreciate taking your time and making it quality, like something that you're proud of each year. So, walk me through this album, End of the World. What does this mean to you? Where did these songs come from?
The first concrete song on the album was End of the World, and I ended up kind of constructing the album off of that song. I was going to name the album End of the World, like the name of the song, but I ended up concluding that was a little too morbid for like my first project, so I ended up calling it End of a World, which is also the end of Young Moonling, which was a world I was living in before.
Double entendre.
Double entendre, exactly. Yeah. So it's called End of a World. To make a long story short, it is the evolution of me kind of outsourcing that validation, and then the solution is me internally validating myself. And so it's almost like, it almost ends on a cliffhanger with peace of mind, because it's like, I am my peace. Like, I'm gonna have peace of mind. We don't know how, you know, but I know that this is possible for me. So it's gonna be a great, like, launch into the next project, which will be the development of my character, of me.
I like it.
Yes, so it's just like, it's a love story for sure, but it's not the typical love story where there's like a Prince Charming who saves me. It's like, I am the savior.
That's beautiful. You and your brother Kalechi's song "Waiting for You" remix.
Yes.
Featured on Apple Music by the legendary Ebro.
Coming on Apple Music. Kalechi and Young Moonling. Waiting for You to remix.
So unexpected.
Yeah.
A lot of these things that be happening, like, I really do have to sit down and thank God, because it's just a blessing. Like, I have a great team. It's really just my family is my team.
That's lit.
So they really ride for me when I just be minding my business.
How is it creating with family? First of all, I love that song. I love what you did to that song. I like the original too.
Right.
But that was a remix. You
Yes,
know, there's so many
is.
remixes and like, oh, it's just somebody put their verse on it. Like, no, this is a totally different song. Same song.
Right.
But different.
Right.
You killed it. Y'all killed it.
Thank you.
What was that like creating with your brother?
Super organic. I mean, like I said, we've been making songs.
Been doing it
Since how old? I can't even tell you. Maybe 13, 12. I think that was the first song we had created from scratch ever. I want to say probably ever. Like, just like, as in I produced, he produced, I wrote, he wrote. And originally I wasn't going to write. I was just helping him produce, helping him come up with something. Because I had loved the song once I heard it. He sent it to me before tour. And then before his tour with Jadena, and then he went on tour with Jadena, and the record was going crazy before it even dropped. So we decided to just make something, and I was like, yo, listen to this, and I played some chords that sounded a lot like Waiting for You. He was like, yo, that's fly, like, let's start producing around it. So we didn't know what we were doing. We just started. Then I was like, should I write? He was like, should you write? And I was like, I'm gonna write. And we sat right there on the steps, and I just wrote that verse. And it was interesting because I did have to put on like my writer's cap. It couldn't just be me because it is a love song and I'm with my brother. So I wanted to kind of be like from a retrospect perspective, or like the outside looking in. So I really channeled a lot of the relationships around me for the story of that song, and to be able to like narrate a situation without it being awkward that I'm like on a love song with my brother. And it ended up coming together perfectly. The lyrics were just perfect.
I love it. It did definitely work.
Yes, even some of the sounds like from that, like the snare is actually a measuring tape that we just like let go.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it was a really just organic.
Wow, what is the ultimate goal? Would you like to be signed, or you know, is this what you want to do with your life? This is how I'm eating for the rest of my life.
Right. And I would love to eat off music. I don't really desire to be signed because that's really hard. Like, it's almost harder to be signed these days. I just feel really blessed and secure in my position to be working with my family, and the opportunities that we be blessed with be a lot and enough sometimes. And I know that now that I'm like fully invested into my craft and my artistry, that naturally I will have security.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I know that naturally I'll have security, whether there's a label, whether LVRN ever hits me up or not. So, you know, I think it would be nice to be signed because that will help you as far as finances and funding. But everything up till now has been 100% me. Nobody funds my shit. Like, I've spent more than you even want to know on this project, as far as visuals and like props and like everything to like get this to where it's going. I'm grateful that I have the means to do so, but bro, I work at a smoothie shop, like, you know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm just lucky that I don't have anything else I have to spend money on but this.
Right.
So a lot of my extra money just goes straight into this. Like, it's an investment.
You'll see the fruits. It's all gonna, you know, come full circle. Is
Right.
there anything you would say to artists who are, you know, trying to live out their dreams? 'Cause I know you probably feel like you have this long way to go, but you know, look at where you are now compared to where you were.
Right.
Is there anything you can say to somebody who's trying to make their way up?
Definitely invest in yourself. Don't let nobody take your money who you don't know, who you don't trust. Work with the people you know. Work with your friends. Pay your friends. It's okay. Like, you don't have to get freebies all the time. Pay your friends so they know you're serious, you know, and sit down and use your resources that are right next to you. A lot of the times we think that like this thing is so far and unachievable, but the reality of the situation is that everything is just doing and like doing it. Like, we sat here and planned an interview and then we came and we did it.
Just do the thing.
You just have to do the thing. So it's not as hard as you think. Like, you can get a video shot and edited for as little as $200. Obviously it won't be an amazing, perfect, you know, high budget video, but it'll be something, and it's not going to be something you shot on your iPhone. And a lot of people don't spend $200 for a video or $400 for a video, and like it might sound like a lot of money, but think about all the money you spend on weed or on food, eating out, or on this and that. You can really invest in yourself and build your world. Like, that's my advice, is to build your world and like build that circle. Don't think about networking up. Don't think about the people who are ahead of you. Think about the people who are right there with you, all the resources you already have, because if it's meant to be, it's gonna be. You can stream Waiting for You remix featuring me on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, any streaming platform. That's out, so please go stream that.
Do that. You can literally put it on any playlist.
Put it on your playlist.
It goes on any playlist.
Check out my YouTube, Young Moonling. A lot of the process of the album, a lot of songs that I've never released are on there. Me singing covers are on there. If you want just a touch of me, you can definitely get my personality, a little bit of my life on my YouTube. My SoundCloud, Young Moonling, you can hear my old world there, my rap world, you know. And you can also hear my brother's great engineering, because he engineers all my track, mixes and masters all my track. And catch me on my Instagram, is probably where I'm most active, Instagram and Twitter, which is Ezenwanyi. Just search EZENWANYI, Ezenwanyi, which means queen. And you can catch me there on social media. It's actually spelled backwards, but if you search my name correctly, it'll still come up. It'll be the first one that pops up. So that's me.
Thank you so much for sitting with me. This was a first for both of us here. So I thank you. I feel you when it comes to you know, just networking across. Like, you're somebody, Haley somebody, you know. I've just been seeing the elevation, the growth. So I look forward to more from you. I can't wait to hear your album. And this is Ezzy.
Thank you, Ashley.
See y'all.